But I think a lot of people who are doing podcasts these days maybe don't understand the power of sound when it comes to having an intro and an outro, because that brands your podcast. And you kind of need someone else to say nice things about you if you want someone to introduce you in your podcast and you don't want to say those nice things about yourself. So it just makes sense to have someone else do that on your behalf, which means hiring a voice actor. And that doesn't have to be a really difficult process at all. But besides that kind of a thing, I just thought, raising awareness was a really good thing, because I do think that first of all, I know there are a lot of voice actors with podcasts out there, or who are working in the podcast area on behalf of someone else as a host, or, that kind of a thing, and doing really good jobs at it. So I'm thinking that, the awareness was needed there.
George the Tech.
Hello, everyone. George the Tech, and continuing our series of our trusted partner profiles. I've got someone who I've gotten to know so much better over the last few years, and I'm grateful for it. And here to tell us her story, how we work together, and her whole world in the world of voiceover and audio is Jodi Krangle. How are you, Jodi?
I'm doing very well. Hello.
It's so great to have you, and especially great because we just were talking on your Clubhouse, which is one of the many different media channels and outlets that you do. We'll get to that. Yeah, we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But first, it's very important to share with our clients, our audience, a little bit about yourself. How did you get to where you are today? The 5-minute version, maybe.
Oh my goodness.
Or less.
Well, I've been, okay. Challenge accepted, I guess.
Exactly.
I've been a voice actor for 16 years now, and, going on number 17. And I mostly work in the 5 minutes of finished audio or less genres. So mostly commercial, corporate narration, that kind of thing. Podcast intros and outros, because I have a podcast that I've had since November of 2019 called Audio Branding, where I talk about the power of sound and how it influences our buying decisions and our daily lives. And I have learned a ton through that podcast and interviewed you, in fact. So it's been a really educational experience. And I like to use it as a way to get to know both my clients and people who hire us better, to see what it is that their pain points are, what they need to explain to their end clients about why sound is important. So it's kind of raising all boats for all of us who work in sound. That's the idea.
It's very enjoyable to listen to, because not only do you have, of course, a very lovely, pleasant voice, the production quality is fantastic, the guests are very high caliber, and I learn a lot listening to it. Because, I love listening to people's stories, and I certainly love learning about our voiceover brothers and sisters, as I interviewed them so many years. But it's so great hearing these very different parts of our industries being featured. It's really quite excellent.
I love talking with a bunch of different people, too. It's not just people who are involved in voiceover or hiring voiceover people, but also musicians and scientists and marketing experts and public speakers and all sorts of things in between. And like I said, I learn new things every day. It's fantastic.
Well, I tell you, I love hearing your voice in the darndest of places, too. I hear you on my Spotify app quite often. And sometimes I will screen cap and record those and send them to you, as you're aware. I always
appreciate it. Yes.
But I love hearing that. I'll be on the plane and I will hear you, on an ad, and I'll be like, whoa, this is a big client. This is a big ad. Like, woo. And I hear Jodi, my friend Jodi. That's always really cool. So it sounds like you're getting some really great commercial work. Is that commercial work, a lot of it online or streaming platforms? Is some of it broadcast, or is it just all over the map?
It's all over the map. It's a really good mix. I mean, I do work with Pandora and I do work with iHeart as well, which I think iHeart is the Spotify one.
It must be where it comes
I'm
from.
pretty sure. Yeah. So yeah, I do work with them on a fairly regular basis. So yeah, that's mostly where the streaming goes. But there's also regular commercial work from agents. And then I do local and regional stuff for a whole bunch of different clients that are direct to just come directly to me. So yeah, I find that these days, especially to have an actual working career is to have your finger in many different pies.
I totally get that. And as our company, evolves and starts serving other verticals, as they say in the business, we are looking to diversify what we do as well. So we understand that acutely over here at
Yeah.
George the Tech. Tell us about, you're not here to really sell anything. You're not particularly our typical partner, but what you do is provide some really great content that is really helpful to our industries. Who do you think are the ideal listeners for the different types of content?
Yeah, there's a lot of different types. I mean, certainly I do reach out to the ad execs, the creative directors, the video production people, the content creators, specifically because I want them to be able to explain to the people that hire them why the sound is important and extrapolating from that why the voiceover might be important.
Kind of a B
So,
to B
yeah.
conversation, a business to business conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of reaching out to them so that they have fodder to explain to the end client why all of this is important. Because, sometimes people just don't understand. They haven't paid attention to it. It's the last thing they think about, and it kind of shouldn't be. So that's one type of listener experiencer of the things that I do. The other is voice actors and podcasters, because I do talk generally in Clubhouse often about both those topics. And I am a regular contributor and sponsor of Podfest and attend it every year. So that's been a really great way to reach out to other podcasters and voice actors and people who make their living in sound, musicians as well. So lots of different opportunities for people to experience the content in those areas as well.
Well, I have to tell everybody, Jodi's been unbelievably kind in bringing me to Podfest. I got to go to my first Podfest this year in 2024 in Orlando. And I got to meet the community. I got to meet the organizers, and they're a great, really, we use the word a lot, but grassroots kind of organization, a community, and it's really really nice to work with them, and I'm definitely going to be back. What kind of benefit do you feel? And I know we have the warm and fuzzy benefits, but
Of course,
let's talk
yeah.
business. What's a benefit you think you've had in sponsoring Podfest, or really sponsoring any event like Podfest?
Well, I think for Podfest specifically, it sort of involved the voice acting community, because I think before I started not podcasting, but before I started sponsoring, they really didn't understand, I think, where voice acting could fit in or why it would.
So it was awareness. You were building
Yeah.
awareness about what voice actors do and
Yeah.
making them aware that they're out there waiting to serve them and improve their
exactly.
shows.
In a lot of different ways, but I think a lot of people who are doing podcasts these days maybe don't understand the power of sound when it comes to having an intro and an outro, because that brands your podcast. And you kind of need someone else to say nice things about you if you want someone to introduce you in your podcast, and you don't want to say those nice things about yourself. So it just makes sense to have someone else do that on your behalf, which means hiring a voice actor. And that doesn't have to be a really difficult process at all. But, besides that kind of a thing, I just thought, raising awareness was a really good thing, because I do think that first of all, I know there are a lot of voice actors with podcasts out there, or who are working in the podcast area on behalf of someone else as a host, or, that kind of a thing, and doing really good jobs at it. So I'm thinking that, the awareness was needed there. But also, I love doing it to have a means to get to know the other people in the conference, because typically what I do is I'll sponsor a coffee chat. So a lot of people like coffee and tea. You can drink whatever you want, really, but I have these gatherings around the coffee and tea that becomes free to everyone, and we have really nice conversations, and I've met a lot of really great people that way.
I love that you build that little community within the community. So much of this kind of content now is going behind paywalls for a lot of creators. You know, they're going to Patreons, and Patreon is something that's come up in conversation a few times in one of my shows. You haven't done that, right? You haven't decided to paywall anything.
No, because I'm not doing this for making a living necessarily. I mean, I'll be totally honest. I love making connections. And for me, that's what this is all about. When I interview someone, I want to get to know them better. I want to know what makes them tick. And if they happen to hire me, so much the better. But, you know, that's really what I'm using this for. I'm fostering relationships. So I've never accepted any kind of sponsorship on my podcast. I promote my own things. And
that's right.
That works.
You do what do we call host read or inline spots on your podcast that you do.
Yep.
And I think it's very effective.
It works for what I'm doing, and it lets people know more about how they can get more involved, and maybe some downloadable PDFs that they might be interested in, and, you know, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I haven't really accepted any kind of sponsorship at this point, because this isn't something, I mean, this costs me a lot of money. I don't make money from it. Yeah. So I'm not really using it as a money-making venture. And if I was doing that, I might put something behind a paywall. But at this point, no.
Yeah, it's a challenging thing. And, you know, you do keep your overhead down by it being you and a producer versus maybe 4 hosts.
Well,
like my show, the Pro Audio Suite. There's 4 of us, you know, and we're like,
definitely.
It is.
I mean, I have a lot of help.
More complicated.
Yeah, definitely. I do have a lot of help. I mean, Umberto Franco is the producer of the show.
He's on our team, guys.
Yeah.
He's one of our tech team,
outstanding. He's been with me since day one of this podcast. So for over 4 years. And like 235 episodes, something like this. Yeah, like we've been going a while. Yeah. And he's fantastic. And I love everything that he does. So yeah, love working with him. But I also have someone who does my social media. I approve all of it and look it over and change things if I need to. But generally, you know, the first iteration of it is done by someone else, which is so helpful. And I have someone who actually, a human being, writes my show notes. I have a human being doing that.
Wow.
Because I find that using the blog with the player at the top helps people to get more involved in my website, which is really what I want.
Yeah.
So, and it can't sound like an AI wrote it. And these days I can tell. So, you know,
I can too, because I use those AI robots to write a lot of show notes and a lot of YouTube descriptions.
I get why people use it. Yeah, you know, I get why people do it. I do. I understand. But I prefer the human experience.
Full disclosure, I mean, you're going to see more blog posts hitting our site if you're paying attention. And the vast majority of these are going to be written by a transcription bot that's transcribing content that we've already produced. And if that helps some people, great. Honestly, the majority of that is SEO.
Yeah.
You know, so we have a lot more written content on our site so that we're going to be more findable. And that's kind of the crux of the biscuit there. I realize that I don't like writing that much. I'm not bad at it. I just have ADD. It's so hard for me to sit and concentrate.
I'm the same way.
I would rather just speak, you know, and clean it up in post. Make myself and my guests sound intelligible. You know,
I'm kind of the same way. Yeah. Not ADD, but I am, I can write. I can write. I do it. I'm not really all that interested in doing it.
Right.
So I hire this person, this friend of mine that I've known for a really long time. His name is Jeff Moore, and he's really, really good at what he does. And I love working with him. And he understands my voice. in a way that not a lot of people would because he's known me for so long. So it really makes the writing and what appears on the blog a lot easier to understand as coming from my mouth,
Well,
which makes a lot of sense to me.
I know we mentioned AI, and this is turning into a whole different type of interview, but
Yeah.
I feel like I've got an extremely smart media and talent producer here that this is an opportunity, so I'm taking it.
Okay.
So in what parts of your business and your operations do you use or trust AI tools at this point? Is there anything you like to use?
There are two things that I do use. I use something called Podium, which is an AI tool, and that helps us with, and I say us because I do have really a four-person team. It helps us come up with good titles, which are really essential. That helps a lot with SEO. And it also helps with the transcription. So we have a transcription available. And we also use Opus Clips. So Umberto and I will put stuff into Opus Clips, and we'll sort of choose our stinger at the front of the episode by using Opus Clips. And we don't necessarily use those clips as is for social media. We kind of make our own, which has a really unique, distinctive look to it, which is not what you're seeing on all over social media right now with like the big lengthwise things with the transcription
That's
going,
right.
you know.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
Which
they
is
look
what we
great.
do.
I'm not saying they don't look good. I'm saying they look great.
You created a look that's distinctively your brand.
Yeah. Well, Umberto did really, but yeah. It's I think it's pretty distinctive, and I like how it looks. And he was the one who suggested that we have the guest up front with me in a little circle, which I kind of like.
No, I think again, it doesn't look like the other many repurposed. Take a landscape, make it portrait, put a caption, which that's what I'm doing too.
I mean,
I
nothing
like
wrong
that you
with
have a
that.
unique look to it.
We're doing our own thing.
Yeah, good job, Umberto. It really does come across.
Yes.
And I'm going to be having him as soon as I can rein in my ADD brain and my massive task list, which is always right in front of me off the right of my email, to
that's
focus
stressful.
in on creating content, really writing a commercial. Speaking of writing, we need to write a commercial.
Well, if you need some voiceover.
Absolutely.
I think you know a few people.
Voiceover. We need to write this dang commercial. But really, what we really need to write is the 15-second pre-roll. That is probably the most valuable thing in terms of an actual ad spot we can create.
Sure.
Recently, probably a combination of frugality and actually research. I have canceled my YouTube Premium.
Oh, okay.
And I had YouTube Premium for a long time, and I really enjoyed it. But now I am watching all of now I have a regular YouTube account, ad supported. I'm seeing every pre-roll. I'm seeing every interstitial ad. I'm seeing how they interrupt, how long the ad runs for, how long it runs before you're allowed to skip. It's very clever. Like they have very different intervals of time, and I'm sure it depends on the viewership of the show. Like if it's a 20 million sub show, probably aren't going to get to skip much of the ads, right? So it's been very interesting to watch, but I've been watching that more and more and learning about, okay, what is happening in that first 5 seconds?
And you're not going to know unless you don't pay for premium.
Yeah, so I'm watching the ads now and learning.
Yeah.
So that's something we're working on this year, and Umberto's going to be, he's just waiting for me. He's like, when you're ready. So
we have a YouTube channel too. So we started filming everything on video with Riverside and releasing that as well. So
what's the name of your YouTube channel?
Jodi Krangle VO, if anyone wants to check that out. And my social media person, Lisa, does a fantastic job making really nice thumbnails. So it looks pretty primo.
It's great. Yeah, I have an assistant who does a lot of stuff for us and me, customer service, assisting, keeping track of a myriad different tasks. And she graduated from graphic design. So
Oh, yeah.
she's doing thumbnails, she's doing video editing. I've taught her to
So
script.
helpful.
So that collaboration is, huge.
Yeah. Outsourcing is a good idea.
It really is,
It's
because
just-
you need to
yeah.
at some point realize what your business is. What
Yes.
do you do? What is your strength, and what can you do to earn as a CEO of your little empire?
Yeah.
And realize that
we
there's
all
a
have a
lot of
media
things-
empire these days.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you shouldn't be
Yes,
doing.
definitely. Or don't want to, there are lots of things in my daily life that I love passing on to someone else because it takes them 10 minutes and it would take me 3 hours. So love to pass that off. Yeah.
Well, thanks for the tips. Thanks for sharing your story. And if
Thanks
there's
for
just
having me.
one single link where people should go find you, what am I going to have on the page right below this video? Where would they click?
That would be voiceoversandvocals.com. That would be where you'll find everything to do with me.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your extended time today. This might get released absolutely uncut, as well as a shortcut. We'll see, because
Sure.
it was so great, and you're such a natural at this.
Well, thank
So,
you. Appreciate it.
Great to see you today. Thanks, Jodi. Thanks for your time.
Thanks so much, George.